Let's get one thing straight. Retiring with money isn't the hard part anymore. The hard part, spending it the right way. Blow too much too soon, you're toast. You get too conservative, you'll live like you're broke, even though you're not. Neither is winning. Neither is going to have you live your most aspirational, ideal life. Today, I'm breaking down retirement spending strategies with real pros and cons and an actual client case to show you how the right strategy can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over time, and for some people, maybe even 7 figures plus. Most people build wealth without ever planning how to spend it. They use some version of the prototypical 4% rule, where you pull out the same amount each year, adjusted for inflation, and you pray that it lasts. One of the flaws is it ignores real life. Your spending needs change, the markets don't care about your calendar, and you've got different tax buckets and tax locations with assets you have to deal with. Your taxable accounts, your tax deferred accounts, and maybe even your tax-free accounts. They need to be tapped strategically. If you don't plan it out, the IRS will happily take more than their fair share. And for some people, they have tax bombs just waiting for them as soon as they hit retirement. So let me walk you through 3 smarter strategies, and then I'll show you how it plays out for a real world client scenario. So one of the first strategies, it's called a stage spending strategies. Otherwise, go-go years, slow-go years, no-go years. So think of this in phases, not averages. So an example could be the go-go years. That's the early years in retirement. You're traveling, you're checking off bucket list stuff. You have a lot of energy and you're doing a lot. The slow-go years, this is when you chill out, stay local, not really traveling as much. And then the no-go years, that's when spending drops, but healthcare expenses can spike. The pros of this strategy is it's great for front-loading joy and matching your financial life plan and lifestyle shifts you might have. The downside to this, it's very hard to budget for surprise healthcare costs unless it's paired with other type of long-term care planning. Now, the next strategy is called the guardrail strategy. So this can be a strategy that's way more complex, and it can be an arduous process to try to figure this out on your own, but I'm gonna try to keep it very, very simple for the sake of this video here. So how the guardrail strategy works is your withdrawal rate flexes based on market performance. So if your portfolio is crushing it, you're gonna take a little bit more and spend more. But if it tanks, then you'll have to dial it back before it's too late. So the pros of this strategy, and again, it's a very simple explanation of this strategy, but it's dynamic. It protects against sequence of returns risk. The cons is that it requires real discipline and an annual review. It can create anxiety if you're used to fixed income, which most people are. But for some retirees, this could be a very, very great strategy for them. And lastly, there is the floor and ceiling strategy. So how this works is you set a safe minimum and a reasonable max for your retirement portfolios. So you're able to spend freely within your range. There's no major surprises, and it works well with predictable income sources like pensions, social securities, annuities, things of that nature. The pros of this strategy is it's more stable than guardrails. It's more flexible than flat withdrawals. So that could be of value to you, but it also does not adjust based on actual lifestyle phases. So let's jump into a real client scenario. Let's talk about a real client, and we're gonna call her Jasmine. Jasmine's 62. She just sold her business. She has a net worth of around $5 million. And her money is split across multiple different accounts, taxable brokerage accounts, IRAs, and Roth accounts. And she wants to spend roughly around $180,000 a year in retirement. If she went with the basic 4% rule, she'd blindly pull out around $200,000 a year from her portfolio. And she would probably start with her taxable accounts, then her IRA, then her Roth later, potentially taking that pro rata approach essentially. But that's a tax nightmare waiting to happen. She'd trigger big required minimum distributions down the road and pay more in Medicare premiums too. So instead, we modeled a guardrail strategy with dynamic withdrawals based on her portfolio's performance. So here's what's changed. In strong market years, she spends up to $220,000 per year, and that includes gifting, and of course she wants to travel. Now in the weaker years, she pulls back to $160,000, where she's just gonna cover her essentials only. And so what this is doing is it's optimizing her plan by setting those guardrails. And then also what we're doing is we're looking at withdrawals and optimizing withdrawals across all three account types. So we're pulling from the Roth accounts early to smooth out taxes before the required minimum distributions hit at age 73. So what is the net result? Well, first off, her portfolio has the potential to last 7 years longer than the flat 4% model. She pays roughly $320,000 less in lifetime taxes by just implementing this strategy. And by the way, we haven't even talked about Roth conversions. This is strictly just distribution withdrawal strategies. And she has flexibility to say yes to life in the years that matters most. The way you spend in retirement, it's just as important as how you save. It's not just about the numbers, it's about freedom, it's about flexibility and minimizing regret. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Subscribe for more strategies that actually move the needle with your wealth plan. And if you want to run your own plan through this framework, feel free to visit my website. It's here in the show notes, wealthbllc.com, and I'll show you what your numbers could potentially look like. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.